And so what's your message to BYU fans?
Just buckle up and get ready, because next year is going to be a show. Next year we're going to be winning, and in 2 to 3 years, BYU will be a blue blood.
With this statement in mind, suggesting that BYU could become a blue blood in the next couple years, first we need to figure out what exactly makes a blue blood and who is a blue blood. First, and the most important in what a blue blood is having a winning history, ideally having championships and a lot of them. A second great part of a blue blood is that they're an NBA factory. They need to be able to put their players in the pros consistently at a high rate. And finally, if they are true blue bloods, they'll be able to garner a lot of attention from the top prospects and be able to recruit them at a high level. So the first group we're going to be talking about is the current blue bloods. The best of the best, pretty much the undoubted blue bloods. And that consists of Kansas, Duke, North Carolina, and Kentucky. So Kansas, for example, has 4 championships and has had 101 of their players drafted into the NBA. And there are 11 active Kansas players on NBA teams playing this season. And 11 top 10 recruits is how many they've been able to bring in since 2003. Duke one up them with championships, having 5, and they have 115 players that have been drafted into the NBA. They have 23 active NBA players and 26 of the top 10 recruits since 2003. UNC has 6 championships, 119 drafted players, 7 active NBA players, and 13 of the top 10 recruits. And they also are home to the basketball GOAT. UNC is where Michael Jordan himself played years ago. And the final of this group is Kentucky, who has 8 championships, 151 drafted players, 28 active NBA players, and 30 of the top 10 recruits since 2003. They have been an absolute NBA factory and have a great storied history, but they have struggled a little bit recently in the NCAA tournament. The second group is the old blue bloods, the blue bloods from a yesteryear, a long time ago. So we have Indiana, who was a basketball powerhouse back in the day, and UCLA. So Indiana has 5 championships as a team, but the most recent was in 1987, long time ago. Over 30 years ago. And UCLA has 11 championships, and their most recent was in 1995. Honestly, the most notable things about these teams recently, Indiana had Victor Oladipo that went there, and UCLA, of course, had Lonzo Ball for that 1 year where he balled out there. The third group we're going to be talking about is kind of newer blue bloods, maybe some up-and-coming teams that could be vying for a blue blood name. And this is teams like Villanova, Michigan State, Gonzaga, UConn. Of course, UConn has 4 championships, including they have the last 2, and 4 top 10 recruits since 2003. So, definitely a lot less than the 4 main blue bloods right now, but still bringing high-level players and definitely winning at a very high level, especially lately. Gonzaga is kind of the new kid on the block. Not really considered a blue blood, but seen to be on the way to that. And they have 20-plus wins each season since 2000, which a lot of these teams don't have. A lot of these teams have most of their seasons since 2000 with over 20 wins, but not all of them. And of course, Gonzaga also was home to Chet Holmgren for a year, where he is their only top 10 recruit, and he was number 1 in his class. Of course, Jalen Suggs was also a high-level recruit, a great one and done, which was kind of the start to Gonzaga's new trend of maybe having a one-and-dunk guy here and there, because lately that really hasn't been a thing for them. Normally they're a spot where maybe they'll take in a transfer or just have a guy stick around for a good 3 or 4 years and develop. Michigan State has 2 championships and has had 2 top 10 recruits since 2003. And Magic Johnson also went to Michigan State. That was a while ago, but still a big name in basketball. And Villanova has 3 championships. And they have 0 top 10 recruits since 2003. So a lot of success with not necessarily the highest level recruits. Of course, they get plenty of solid 4-star prospects and such, but just not top 10 recruits. But they have a lot of good players, including good players in the NBA. Of course, you can look at the Knicks team, and you basically have a Villanova team remade in the NBA there. So that brings up the question, how does BYU stack up to these Blue Bloods? And honestly, it's a little rough. 0 championships, but they do have 20-win seasons since 2000, which is pretty solid, pretty comparable to a lot of the teams that we've talked about so far. In fact, it's more than UConn, Villanova, Indiana, UCLA, and UNC. So it's pretty solid. In their history, they have 25 NBA players, which, again, is less than all of the previously mentioned schools. And the one that hurts is that they have 0 active NBA players. Their most recent being Elijah Bryant, who was a member of the Bucks championship team, so a few years ago. But they have 1 top 10 recruit in the past 20 or so years, and that's AJ Dybantsa. AJ Dybantsa is their recruit for this year, number 1 in the nation. That's a huge get for BYU, unprecedented really, especially for players who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Years back, BYU is in contention to get Jabari Parker, who was a top 5 recruit in his class, and a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Ultimately, he obviously went to Duke, went number 2 in the draft, had some solid time in the NBA, but also struggled with injuries. But really, AJ Dybantsa is the biggest recruit that BYU has ever gotten, and so it's a big deal. So, kind of been talking about this already, but does BYU belong? Absolutely not. At least not yet, not right now. But there are a lot of reasons to have hope, and those reasons to have hope mostly come in the form of their recent recruiting success and their high-level NBA coach that they brought in. So you're looking at the most recent couple of classes for BYU and why they would give you reason to believe that they can turn around what has been a solid program and turn it into a true blue blood. Now, I definitely don't think they can reach the heights of the Blue Bloods we talked about earlier in a couple years, but they can definitely get down that trail on that right trajectory. And I think they already have started doing that. Of course, Yegor Demin is a big part of that. The freshman phenom was given a 5-star rating by 24/7 Sports, being the first 5-star in BYU history through 24/7 services. Of course, he didn't receive like a composite ranking and stuff like that because of him being a foreign prospect, but he was a projected lottery pick coming into the season, and he's done pretty well so far. He's had a little bit of a dip recently, but he still looks to be a top 10 draft pick in this upcoming draft, and he would be the first drafted player out of BYU since Jimmer Fredette, of course, the great scorer and player of the year in college basketball back in the 2010-2011 season. And also you have Cannon Catchings on BYU's roster right now, who's a 6'9" wing, who has shown some good promise. He's hitting a third of his shots, so 33% on his three-point shots. He's under 50% from the free throw line right now, but he clearly has good mechanics, and he's a good athlete and has great length. And so there's a lot of reason to hope that he could develop to be a great 3-and-D player in the league one day. And ultimately, if BYU could get both of those guys drafted into the NBA this year, that would be the first time that BYU had players drafted, multiple players drafted in the NBA draft since the 80s. So it's been a long time. And if they both went first round, that would be the first time ever in BYU history. And of course, you could also throw in a guy Jackson Robinson, who's playing pretty solid on a good Kentucky team right now, as another guy who is a former BYU guy who could go to the league this year. So that could be really cool for BYU, a program that has obviously not had a ton of success getting guys to the league lately. And then, of course, along with AJ Dybantsa is Xavier Staten, who is a high-level 4-star recruit, top 35 player, who is a big center, great rim protector, has shown some promise as a shooter. He's pretty skinny right now, but could definitely fill out, and he would be a great lob threat and a great rim protector for this BYU team next year. So there's a lot of reason to hope, a lot of reason to be excited about this BYU basketball team and their future, especially as long as Kevin Young is their coach, and the NIL keeps doing NIL things. And yeah, there's definitely a lot of hype around Provo right now, and hopefully BYU can capitalize on that. And maybe in 5 to 10 years, BYU can be in the conversation at least for a blue blood. And we'll see if AJ Dybantsa is able to bring BYU to the promised land and bring them a championship. BYU will definitely be a story to keep a watch out for. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share with your family and friends. Anyone who loves sports in general. I love sports. I love talking about them. I have a goal to make a lot more videos this year, and hopefully a bit more consistently. So keep supporting, keep watching, and have a blessed day. Bye.